we are going to practice how to use shapes to draw realistic birds. So you'll need a pencil, some paper, and an eraser. First, I want you to think about the body of the bird. Whenever you're using shapes to draw something, you always think about the biggest main shape first. So hopefully you are thinking about an oval. Most birds have sort of just like an oval body. So go ahead and draw an oval. Don't worry about if it's really perfect or not. What I like to do is use my shoulder to move instead of like my wrist. It's harder to draw a circle when you do this, or an oval I mean, but instead I'm like letting my whole arm stay together, and then I draw an oval. We're going to draw like a songbird maybe, so we'll do an angle. And then what shape do you think the head might be? Hopefully you were thinking of a circle, so that's what I'm going to draw next. I'm going to draw a circle right here. Okay, and then what about the tail? What geometric shape do you think the tail might be? Probably a triangle or a rectangle. So what I'm going to do is down here I'm going to put a little dot where I want the tip of the tail to be. And then I'm going to like look at where kind of the top of the back is of the bird, and I'm going to draw a line straight down to that dot I made. And then the tail usually kind of ends in the middle of the back, and connect that. So this is where you start with just shapes. Now this is like a robot bird we've got going on, right? So now we're going to turn it into a realistic bird. So let's get rid of the floating head and connect the neck to the body. So go ahead and connect the head so that it just kind of smoothly connects into the body. What else should we add? Maybe an eye. Usually birds' eyes are pretty round, so maybe right in the middle of the circle of the head, do a round eye. And then for the beak, usually people think of beaks as coming out from the head, but a beak is a mouth, right? So that means it has to go like into the head a little bit. So we're going to draw that line in between the top and bottom beak first. I'm going to do a dot kind of right in front of the eye, and it's going to come out for as long as I want the beak to be. And then we're going to draw a line going up for the top of the beak, down for the bottom, and then we're going to connect this with sort of like a curve so that the beak is going into the head. And there's tons of different types of beak, right? Like this is a songbird beak, but you might also do, you know, like an eagle beak where it's something like this. Or you might do a beak that is more like, what, like a puffin or something, where the middle's like this, but then it's really huge on the top and bottom. But the key is to add this little edge of beak that goes into the middle of the head. That's what makes it look more realistic. Next, let's add some wings. And I don't know, you don't always see the wings, but sometimes you do. So let's add sort of like a shoulder where the top of the wing is. And then we're going to draw a line that's almost kind of parallel to the bottom of the body. And it's going to swoop up and over the tail. And then we'll kind of like end it kind of like this. Okay. And then are tails perfect triangles? Not usually. Usually they're kind of like some feathers sticking out, like it's rounded maybe. Maybe there's like an extra double feather sticking out. That's if it's like a barn swallow. But you want to just kind of add in those little details that don't look geometric, that don't look like a robot. Okay, what are we missing? We're missing the feet, right? So before we draw the feet, let's go ahead and give him a stick or something to stand on, which you're also going to do when you draw whatever bird you choose to draw. Okay, so give him a stick. And then I'm going to do what not to do real quick. I get so many people who draw really beautiful birds, and then they'll add little tiny feet like this. Do you think that looks right? No, it's out of proportion, right? Which is what we're going to talk about next when we talk about geometric shapes, is proportion. These little tiny feet are too small for the body. Okay, so what we want to do is do feet that are in proportion to the body. And so a big thing, if you look at photos of birds, usually the toes are the same length as the beak. Isn't that crazy? And what you can do, if you look at a picture, is you can like take your pencil and you can compare the length of the toe to the length of the beak. You know, see how I'm putting the tip of my pencil here, or here, let's draw the toes first. Okay, so we're gonna draw bird's legs usually kind of bend backwards. So we're gonna draw the top part and the bottom part. It's like a backwards knee almost. Okay, and then we're gonna draw the toes. And what I usually kind of like to do is draw like sausage shapes almost. They're kind of like this. So there's one toe, there's another toe, here's a backwards toe, and then maybe there's like one more up here that we can barely see. Okay, and if you notice, I'm going to put the tip of my pencil on one side of the toe and my thumb on the pencil on the other, and I'm not going to move it, and I'm going to compare that length to the beak. And so I drew my toes about the right length, since that compares to that. Isn't that crazy that toes are that long? And then usually birds have kind of pretty intense claws, so I'll give them some claws too. Okay, and then we would do another leg. Usually the legs connect at about the same spot. So we'll draw some toes. Yeah, and then you can go back and erase any of the lines that you don't want in there, or you can just leave them because this is just practice. It doesn't really matter. Same thing when you go to do your final bird, after you get your shapes just right and you've got the details drawn on and it's just the way you want, then you'll go back and you'll erase these geometric shapes that we don't need certain parts of them anymore. Like, you know, with a regular bird, you don't really see the bottom of the circle and this part of the oval. Kind of like that. Hopefully your birds turned out really nice.